Hello everybody, welcome to the Collector's Vault. My name is Mike, and I'm going to be talking today to you guys about probably one of the most iconic sets in all of collectible trading cards. That is Pokemon base set. And the main reason for this is because I know there's plenty of videos on YouTube that discuss, how you can tell, how you can identify base set. And I basically want to try to go into a little bit more detail, mainly for those who are maybe just starting to collect Pokemon, who just really aren't that familiar. I mean, some of the indicators are very obvious, but this video will go into some, pretty good detail on exactly what are the real differences. And maybe just a little bit of a history lesson, too. So, I want to start off with basically talking about base set first edition. Now, when Wizards of the Coast first started printing Pokemon, I believe it was in 1998 or in 1999. I can't remember exactly. The very first set was Pokemon base set, and it was released. No, it was released as the first edition printing, basically the first print run for the set. All the cards in this first edition base set all had this little symbol right here. This little first edition stamp is probably one of the biggest indicators on Pokemon base set first edition. Well, maybe not just base set, but for any Pokemon set that has a first edition print run, this little symbol right here is the biggest indicator. Now, I know a lot of other card games, well, maybe not a lot, but I know Yu-Gi-Oh! Was also another card game that has first edition, and I guess the non-first edition would be called Unlimited, which means it was basically printed so many times, an unlimited, like quote-unquote unlimited amount of times to meet the demand of the product. I'm pretty sure I don't have to tell you that when Pokemon first got revealed and released, it was like it was a worldwide phenomenon. I mean, everyone loved it. All kids loved it. I grew up in the 90s. I was a 90s kid, and yeah, Pokemon was like a religion to me. So these cards didn't really last very long on store shelves, and they basically had to do a second print run. When they did the second print run, they basically took the exact same template as the first edition set, and they basically just reprinted it without the here's a better example. Without the first edition stamp. This is basically the like a second edition printing. We know it now as Shadowless, and I'll get into why it's called Shadowless, because there really isn't much of a difference between these two cards. As far as I know, the only real difference, because these are supposed to be it is supposed to be the exact same template, is that it is missing. You can see right here, it's missing that first ed stamp, indicating that this was the second print run. And I believe when they did the print run, it was I think it was just one print run each. One for first ed, one for the second edition, like Shadowless. And then after that, they actually had to do an unlimited print run, which is when they actually, printed enough to meet the demand. I think there might have been, 10 print runs. Maybe a little less. I don't really remember. But there was definitely a lot. There are a lot more print runs to meet demand. And that's where we come into the Unlimited edition. This is where you'll probably start seeing most of the differences. Because right off the bat, I'm just going to hold up the Shadowless one for now, but you can immediately see that not only these cards have different shading and different coloring, there's also differences in the font and some of the sizes of the text and symbols. And this is kind of what I wanted to help go into detail to show everyone what the actual differences are. Because one of the problems is, especially with people who are unfamiliar with Pokemon cards, is that when it comes to base set, I think this is the only set that really has 3 editions of cards. So when people might see an unlimited Charizard, some people just naturally don't realize that there's other editions of that same card. The biggest difference, as I said, is that the shading and coloring of Charizard himself is different. You can see on the Shadowless. Let me get my super professional handy dandy Wii U stylus. You'll see that the Shadowless Charizard, and this also goes for the first Ed Charizard because again, these are the exact same template, just first Ed stamp. But the first Ed and Shadowless Charizard are a darker orange than the Unlimited. I think their mouths have a different color as well. You can even tell by the way the holograms are done that the fire here is more visible. You see, this is kind of like more faded. The wings on the Unlimited are blue. The first Ed and Shadows have green wings. Even if I were to kind of like put these cards and overlap them, you'll see that even like the background or the foreground, I guess this is technically the background of the card even like a different shade of color. You can kind of see this is like a much darker red. This is almost like a there's even like more white here, and on the. But if I were to hold up the Shadowless, and again Shadowless in first edition, it's not like all the cards are different. Like no, it's the exact same. Like same template. So on the Unlimited, you got different color on Charizard, different shading coloring on the background. You actually have different sizes and fonts. If I hold this together, you'll see that this font is actually a little bit thinner. Like the HP font is a little bit thinner than the Unlimited one. And I think there's even different sizes, like in the text for the attacks. Actually, if you look at the Shadowless, the Fire Spin attack only takes up 2 lines. This is 3 lines. The text is obviously like much bigger here. And the Pokemon Power text, the Shadowless and first edition is like a blue, and this is kind of like a purple or a violet. Also, the reason why Shadowless gets its name is because when they basically did the unlimited print run, they took the first edition Shadowless template and I guess they optimized it, giving like different color shading. I guess I mean, I'm not quite sure why they chose to do this like optimization, but they did some other features. Actually, I'll show you an example. Like the Charizard's not the best example for this, but if you look at the Shadowless and the Unlimited Chansey, again, you can kind of see differences in like the card background. It's almost like a gray here. This is all white. Same thing applies for the text is a different size. Actually, you can even see this Chansey has a lot more pink. This one's a lot more like pale and white. If you go to the other text size, you'll even see that these symbols here for the energy symbols, these are these are closer together. These are further apart, and these aren't centered, kind of like how these are. So when they did like the optimization, they basically helped like center things, kind of just to make it look more neat, I guess. So yeah, they actually do there are a lot of like just these are like subtle differences that you probably wouldn't notice from far away, but there are like a lot of differences. But most notably is that when they did this optimization on the unlimited printing, they actually added a shadow right along here. Like most people look on this corner or on this side of the card art, but it's even like right on the bottom of the card art. The Shadowless was kind of just like a blank slate. They the picture for the art was kind of just put in the middle, put on the card, but here it almost is given like this shadow gives this like some depth, kind of making it seem like the card art is popping off the card, which is, I mean, you see that in a lot of things. I think even video games use that, where they'll put like a black shadow behind text to make it seem like it pops out, it makes it more legible. So because this does not have a shadow, that's how it got the name Shadowless. Now, first edition, because it is, again, the exact same template minus the first set stamp, these are also Shadowless. They just don't really identify this as Shadowless because the first set mainly has the stamp to help identify it. So that's kind of why this second edition print run was coined Shadowless, just because that is the most defining thing about it, is that no stamp, but it has no shadow. The Unlimiteds all have a shadow. And actually, after this, I believe all Wizards of the Coast cards do have the shadow. Like, there is no Shadowless in the Jungle sets. There's no, which is the next Pokemon set. And then the one after that would be Fossil. There are no Shadowless in Fossil. It's just base set that has these 3 editions, which is kind of like it kind of gives this set a little bit of history. And this is important because I feel like, there's a lot of people out there that just don't know the difference. If you're new to Pokemon, it's it can be confusing that people like keep hearing the term Shadowless. They might even start looking at some cards that just where Shadowless doesn't exist. It's only in the base set, and these are some ways to help identify it. The thing now, this is only for the actual Pokemon like monsters themselves. The card game itself also has what are known as trainer cards, and I'm sure you all know this, but there are trainer cards which act as like aid, or like aiding cards or items, and then there's the energy cards which you put on your Pokemon to I think you put it on the Pokemon that way they can use their attacks and stuff. Now these are formatted a lot differently than the Pokemon themselves. So for example, if we look at this first edition computer search, whoops, cards are slipping out of here. The first ed symbol is not located on the middle left. It's actually located right here on the bottom left. And the same would hold true that the Shadowless is basically the exact same template, same shading and color, everything's the same, minus that first ed stamp. If you look at the Unlimited, you can kind of tell that there is, again, a little subtle change in the shading. This actually has more of like a teal turquoise color. This is more of like a baby blue. Looks like the text here is all the same. But the thing is that because there is only like a coloring difference here on the actual template of the card itself, I think you might even be able to see like a difference on the yellow for the trainer, but it's very subtle. But for these cards, there is also a very well, the main way to really tell, because obviously this kind of like this shading difference is really like subtle. All of the cards, and this actually goes the same for the Pokemon monster cards, is that there actually is a copyright date that is different on between the first and Shadowless and the Unlimited. If you look at the first edition and the Shadowless, let's see, get zoom in for you guys. You'll see here at the bottom, it says copyright 1995, 96, 8, and 9, and the same is down here for the first edition. But if you look at an Unlimited, and again, this is on all of the base set cards, and only base set cards. Oops, I'm trying to get the lighting. There we go. Unlimited cards will say copyright 1995, 96, 98. It will not have the year 99. And just to prove to you that it's consistent, here is the Unlimited Charizard and the Shadowless. And again, First Ed and the Shadowless will have the same copyright years. But if you look at the Unlimited, which is on top, oops, sorry, I'm trying to get the, there we go. Making sure you guys can see with the lighting. Unlimited has 95, 96, 98. Shadowless has that 99. This is, again, on all base set Pokemon cards. So this is also a really just easy indicator of which ones are Shadowless in first edition or Unlimited. Now for the energy cards, there really isn't much of a difference. I actually don't really think there is a difference as far as like coloring goes. I could be wrong, but I don't think there really is a big difference. So for example, if I were to hold these up like this, you probably would know which one is the Shadowless, which one is the first edition, which one's the Unlimited. I honestly really couldn't tell. I would never be able to tell. But the main one to tell is that the first editions do have first ed stamps. Their stamps are located right here in the top right corner. As you can see, none here on the Unlimited. Shadowless does not have it either. And but they basically distinguish between the Shadowless and the Unlimited, because the first edition is obviously, it's pretty obvious to find. To distinguish between these guys is again on the date. If you look at the Unlimited Energy, right here on the bottom, copyright 95, 96, 98, but the Shadowless has that 99. And the same holds true for the first edition. Right down there says 99. So yeah, the years are definitely one of the only thing that really is consistent among all of the base set cards is just check for that year, and you'll know for sure whether you have a first ed Shadowless or a Unlimited. So, as far as I know, they are the main differences to help identify between all of the base set Pokemon cards. And it's good to know this because there's a huge value difference between first edition Shadowless and Unlimited, and the main reason is just simply supply and demand. As I said, I believe there's only one print run for first ed and Shadowless. I don't know how many actual cards that entails, like how many sheets were printed, but one print run each. And Unlimited had a lot more, hence the name Unlimited. And So, but because of that, I don't want you to think that these cards are worthless because there's so many. I mean, their value is definitely nowhere near the amount of a first edition or Shadowless. But, you know, like for example, this Charizard, I think just because Charizard is like the most popular of all the Pokemon cards. Even like an unlimited Charizard, I mean, this is probably not the best example. This card is a little bit, you know, some scratches. So definitely not like a gem mint card. But these can still fetch up to $100 for like a mint Charizard unlimited. And then when you get to the Shadowless and the first editions, this is where the value skyrockets, just because these are much more hard. Oh gosh, terrible English. Much more hard to come by. First edition being especially hard just because it was released first. Therefore, these were consumed by the market like a lot more quickly, and it pains me to say, but a lot of times these cards people don't realize, and this applies to like Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic, all the card games when they first are released, that kids get these and they get so excited to play with these and they just shove them in their pockets. They put rubber bands. I hate rubber bands so much. Whenever I see anybody put rubber bands around their cards, I mean, but to be honest, I did it too. We all did it. No one knew that we would ever want to try to protect these cards and keep them in protective sleeves or send them out to get graded. That's why PSA 10 Charizards are hard to come by, because a lot of times whenever someone had a Charizard, like especially the first set ones, they were playing with them on the sidewalk, and they didn't last. I mean, there are 10s out there, and there are technically ungraded copies that maybe could score 10, but that's kind of unlikely. So, but yeah, it's good to, but like I said, it's good to know these differences, so that way whenever you're trying, because I know there's a lot of people out there who are trying to start collecting these vintage old Pokemon cards. I mean, there is a lot of charm to these, because like they're very nostalgic. I mean, Pokemon is obviously still popular. We're still waiting on Gen 8 right now to be released, and so when you're out there on the market looking for these cards, it's good to know what you're looking for. And like I said, I'm sure you can find plenty of videos out there on YouTube kind of explaining it, but I wanted to go maybe a little bit more in depth than some of the others do. So I hope you guys found this information very helpful. Next video, I'm probably going to talk about the Jungle set, maybe do a little bit of a lesson on that, and we'll see where we go from there. So like I said, this is the Collector's Vault. My name's Mike, and I hope you found this information very helpful, and hopefully you guys catch the next video. Take it easy.